Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on Masechtas Yoma Daf Samach Dalid. We're going to begin on Samach Dalid Amud Aleph, about 6 lines from the top with the 2 dots. Im Shel Shem Mace. When it comes to the 2 Seirim, one was La Hashem and one was La Zazel. So we said that if one of them dies, what is the status with the other one? Do we need to bring 2 more animals? Is 1 enough? So the Mishnah said on Samach Beis Amud Aleph, the very beginning, it says that Meis Echad Mehen, if let's say one of them died, just to review this Mishnah, Im Ad Shelo Higril Meis, if let's say before the lottery one of them died, then Yikach Zug Lasheni. All you need to do is pair it with another one, because you didn't do the lottery anyway, so nothing really took place, so you can just take another animal and that would be enough. However, the Higril Mace, let's say you already did the Hagrol, you already did the lottery, and then one of them died. So Yavi Zug Acher, you actually have to take another pair, another 2 animals, the Yagalehem Batchila, and then you have to make another lottery. The Yomi, you have to make the following stipulation. Im shel shem meis zeh shel olav hagar l'Hashem yiskayim tachtav. If the animal that died was supposed to be l'Hashem, so then this one will end up being in its place. Im shel azazel meis, if the one that died was supposed to go to the cliff l'Azazel, zeh shel olav hagar l'Azazel yiskayim tachtav. And the problem is, what do you do with the 3rd animal? Vasheni gira ad yitzdayiv. You have to let it graze. Then you give the money as the dove is an ola, mesa. Because when it comes to even though it's a chatas, but since it's chatas sibur, we don't apply the din of chatas mesa baleha. That's only by carbon yachid. And Rabbi Huda concludes the mission says tomus, that actually you do allow it to die. Rabbi Huda, he says further, nishbach adam, if the blood is spilled, Yoma Mishtalech, then the Mishtalech will die because you need a new pair for the girl. Mesa Mishtalech Yishavech Adam. And if the Mishtalech died, then again you have to just spill the blood because again you need to do a new Hagrala. Okay, that was a little bit lengthy, but it's just to remind ourselves of the various dinim as we're now going to see the Gemara. Im Shel Shem Meis Zeh Shel Olav. So let's see the Gemara in Samach Dalid Amud Aleph. So we have a machlokas. Amarav. Sheni shebazug rishon yikrav. Sheni shebazug sheni yira. Says the second one by the first zug, that one is being makriv, and the second one of the second pair, that will be grazed. In other words, he feels that the first animal is the one that will be used, not the second one. If Yochanan Sheni Shibazug Rishon Yira, the second one that's still alive, that one is one that grazed. Sheni Shibazug Sheni Yikrav, and instead, among the new pair, that new one is what's being makriv. So again, the machlokas between Rab and Rav Yochanan is now that you do this new lottery system because one of them died. So the question is, do you use the living one in the first pair? Or do you just let that one graze and use the second one? So about my Mifki, what is the basis of this machlokas? So Rav Savar, Rav who says that the din is that you could still use the first one, Bali Chaim inu nidchin. He says that the fact that it was not allowed to be used because its pair died, that doesn't push it off. Why? It was invalid. Yes, but it's chayz v'nira. Now it can be reused because it's still alive. Rabbi Yochanan Savar Bali Chaim Nidchin, that once there's a problem, that's it. We don't say chayz v'nira. It cannot be reused, and therefore use the second pair. So my time at Rav. So why does Rav say this din that Bali Chaim Inu Nidchin? Diyov Mechusar Zman. He went it out from the din as we saw in yesterday's daf of a Mechusar Zman. Mechusar Zman Lav Afagav the Hashtal Chazi. We know that right now it's not fit because it's not 8 days old. Ki hadar mechse shapir dami. However, later on, it will be fit to be used. So hachinami loshna. So even though it's true, right now it's not fit, it's nidcha, but it's a bal chayim, and we say the chayz of nira could be reused. So therefore, just in mechusar zman, that's the din. So too when it comes to our circumstance. So Gemara says, 1 second. Midami. Hasam was chazi klal. Over there, it was never fit to begin. Mechusar zman. So hacha nira v'nidcha. Here it's a problem. It was nira. Now it's nidcha. We say chayz v'nira. It's one thing that it was never fit, and all of a sudden now it becomes fit after it's 8 days. So maybe that's why we're lenient that we say you can now use it. However, maybe something that was nira v'nidcha, we don't say chayz v'nira. El hainu time of the Rav, not from mechusar zman, because mechusar zman is a different pashut. Rather, diyav mebal mum oiver. What's the din when an animal that has a blemish can't use it? What if it's a bal mum oiver, which is a temporary blemish, meaning that will heal eventually? So the din's like this. Bal mum oiver. So even though it was fine, it was a tamim, it was nira, and there was nidcha because it was a bal mum oiver, we say the din is nira v'nidcha, chayz v'nira, you could reuse it. So l'chayr should be the same thing as our situation. Now b'hasim enolan. So how do we know that that's the case when it comes to a bal mum oiver? D'chsiv ki mashchasam b'hem mum bam hu d'lo yiratza. Dafka right now it has a mum. Ha'aver mum and yiratza. However, later on, if the mum is removed, it's temporary, so then it can be used. Ab Rav Yochanan. L'chayra, Rav is a very good point. That we do find when it comes to a situation of bal mum oiver that it's nidcha. It was nira v'nidcha, it's chayz v'nira. So mir rachmana bahem heimu dachi aber mum yiratza hakol dechuin hoyel v'nidchun nidchun. So in this he's masking. He says you're right, and this is actually question 13. Mehechen yolef rav de bali chaim in nidchin. So we're now from bal mum oiver. That was always, as we said, it was a dichui mi'ikara. But he says that lav dafka can you learn out from a bal mum oiver, because maybe it's because of the gzeres hakasav that we allow it. However, without this gzeres hakasav, the chol tarakul, we won't apply that nir v'nidcha chayz v'nira. V'rav hahu bahem ve'inayu hu d'lo miratzu. It means in its current state. Ha'al yidei taruvos mirtzu. However, if it's through some type of taruvos, some type of a mixture, then it will be allowed, just like Rabbi Eliezer. Kiditnan, ivarim timimim, bivarim balimumim. What happens if you have limbs which are tamim, and they commingle with limbs which are balimumim? So Rabbi Eliezer Omer, im karev haroy shel ech mehem. If you were makar the head of one of them, yakriv kol haroshin kulon. You can be makar of all the heads. Because the whole issue is daf in a situation, of course it's supposed to be a tamim. However, since before you realize this, you already were makar of one of them, and then afterwards you're a makar of, so we say, probably, maybe we could be toil of the isser on the first one that you did before you recognized this mistake. So we see that we're makel, the fact that it's mixed in together. So Rashi says, "Ein kan safik isser deraisa, l'meiz l'chomer." We don't have to go strict. It's not in deraisa. Doyes here tar lehen el kashin ba'atzman. The whole isser is daf when it's by itself. Shnei bohem ki mashchasam bohem mum bam ki isnu b'nayim. So that's the drasha. It's daf when it's alone by itself. Is it an issue? However, alidei taruvos were more makel. Continuing the Gemara, karev shel ech mehem yakriv kol karayim kulon. Again, just like the head, also if you're a makrib, the kirayim, so too, we're bitoyla that probably the first one, before you recognize this commingled, that was the one that was be'isser. No. Even if you did all of them except for one, that one should be go to base of sreifa because he's toilet pumpakar. Then maybe this is the one that's the isser. The idach nafkali bum bohem Didach bombahem ul darsh. In other words, everyone holds that this is true. Ali taruvos that were makel, possibly again, obviously the sheet of the Tanakam, the Chachamim, but again, it could be through this extra drasha. Or Rab nehina mid balchayim nidchin. So what does he say? Fine, balchayim is not nidchin, so therefore you should use the first one. What do you mean you should use the first one? Maybe that just should mean you could use the first one. E-boy high nakriv, e-boy high nakriv. Why must we use the first one according to him? L'chayra balchayim nidchin should just tell you now you have an option between the first and the second. So Rabbi, as we saw this before, Rav Savar look Rabbi Yosi, the Amr mitzvah Marishain, the mitzvahs were the first. And again, the Gemara goes through this Shakavataria. So, hey Rabbi Yosi, which one is it? It's E-name of Rabbi Yosi, the Kupos, when it comes to Tzedakah boxes, that not. Shosh Kupashol, Shalosh Sayim, Shebehem Tarmin Esalishcha. That there was these 3 Kupos of, for the Lishka, for the Trumas Lishka, which was collected during the month of Adar, so that we would have money and funds for carbon seaboard for the rest of the year, starting from Chodesh Nisan, because of Alehen Aleph Beis Gimel, and it said on those letters, an Aleph had a Beis and a Gimel. But Tanya Rabbi Yosi Lo Because of Alehen Aleph Beis Gimel. Why do you have to say that? What's the difference? So Leidas to let us know is Mehem Nitrum of Rishon, to tell you which one you should take the monies from first. Well, Havi Hemen Rishon, that's the one that comes first. Why should Mitzvah Rishon? Not Dilma Shani Hasam. Maybe that's not a raya that every situation always be Berishain. Maybe Shani Hasam did it in the Schazi Kamaisa was Schazi Basraisa. Maybe it's because at the time that the first one was fit, the other ones were not fit. In other words, they were collecting them, and therefore, since they already were collecting them, that is what it was fit for. Says Rashi, Avol Hai was Schazi Kama. The first one was not fit. Ad is Schazi Basra. Until the other Sa'ir was there. Ja'afal P. Shehigrolov, even though he did a lottery, Einu Roy Lishachit, it's not fit to do the Shechita, Ad Achar Matan Damapar. You can't do the Sa'ir until you already sprinkle the blood of the par, but in the Kodesh Kodashim. During that time, Meis Chaverai, the other Sa'ir died. V'aviu Shnayim, that's why you brought 2. V'hegriu Lehem, V'shagizman Shechita Sa'ir. Kvar Zachar and Oimid. Okay, so again, the process is you first do the Shechita Sapar, you do the Zrika Sapar in the Kodesh Kodashim, and then only afterwards the Seir is Shechted. Okay, so therefore that's not necessarily a Raya to be Eid, because again, the time that the first one was there was Chazi Basraisa. El Rabbi Yosi the Pesach. So rather, the din is, we learn it out from the Carbon Pesach. What's that? The non-hamafresh pischai. Let's say a person says, this is going to be my current Pesach. It gets lost. Behivrish acher tachtov, and then another carbon you take in its stead. V'yachrach nimsarishin, and then afterwards you find the first one. Varishneim oindin, and then both of them are there. So the question is, which one should you use? The one that was lost and now found, or the one that was replaced? So the Chum says it doesn't matter. However, if Yosi Omer mitzvah rishon, then this is how we learn it out, Taka. That the first one, the one that was lost and found, that is the one that you should use. So too, this is what is the reason why Rab says, in this situation, even though he did a lottery and then one of them died, so the one that is from the first pair, that one should be used because he holds, just like by Carbon Pesach, here too, mitzvah rishon. As we continue in Samach Dalet and Beis. However, of course, if the second one is better, because you do have a choice, then you should use the nicer one. We actually can say that our Mishnah can support the sheet of Rav. Again, Rav who holds that Bali Chaim Yenu Nidchin. However, we're going to have a brayse this for Rabbi Yochanan the opposite direction. So Masnisin Kavasid Rav Diktani. What does our Mishnah say? Im shel shem mace. So we said, what happens if the one that died is l'shem, and therefore the one that remains is l'zazel? So what is the din? Zeh she'ol love hagar l'shem. This other one, that one is yiskayim tachta. That is the one that should be used. The idach kidekoi koi, which is mashma that you can still use the sir l'zazel. That's what it's coming to tell you. So therefore, what is that mashma? That's very clear, like the shita of Rav. That when it comes to this, we use the first one, and we do not use the second. So that is the din when it comes to when the situation, you had the girdle, that the first one was, the first animal, one of them died. So the din is that you're supposed to use the azazel, the first one, which is again according to the shita of Rav, and that's what he is the opinion of. However, the brisa kavasi to Rabbi Yochanan. However, we have a brisa which supports the other shita, which is the shita of Rabbi Yochanan, that says that in this very situation, you're supposed to use the second one. How do we see that? Diktani sheni eni yodea im sheni shibazug rishon im sheni shibazug sheni. So the truth is, based on that language of the Gemara, where it says sheni, it's not so clear. Does it mean the second one of the first pair? Because one of the first pair, one of them died, but the other one's still alive. So maybe when it says sheni, that's referring to from the first pair. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe sheni is referring to the sheni shibazug sheni. It's referring to the second one. So which one is it? So according to the shita of Rabbi Yochanan, he's of the opinion that it's the second one that's used. So kashu oimer yamud chai, when it says yamud chai, that you're supposed to use the one which is alive, v'lo shechavero meis. So that's implying not the one in which its friend died. So the very fact that it says that language is mashma clear, like Rabbi Yochanan, that you're not supposed to use the first one which is still alive, because it's chavero's mace. So therefore instead you should use the second pair, and that's the one that's supposed to use. So my mashma yamud chai v'lo shkvar amad. So how do we see from that language of yamud chai that that's what this is coming to tell us? So yamud chai means in this following meaning. It means Yamad Chai V'lo Shkvar Amad. It means that it was something that is standing alive, not something that was Kvar Amad, that was already there. In other words, it's something that was already, not something that was already in existence, which is referring to the first one, but rather the second pair. It's not. So we learn like this. V'od Omer Rabbi Yehuda Nishbach Adam Yoma Samashtalech. So we said that in the event where you already spilled the blood, and you're supposed to actually do the zrikas hadam of the par, instead it spilled, so the din is yomos hamishtalech. So you have to then also kill the mishtalech. That one cannot be used either. Since we see you put the mishtalech to death, what does that must mean? Clearly, it must be that he holds that Bali Chaim Nidchin. Very clear that you can't use it. Because otherwise, according to Rabbi Yehuda, why does it have to be killed? What happened to the Ser Mishtalech that has to be killed? But since the blood was spilled, so therefore it becomes Bali Chaim is Nidchin, and therefore it cannot be used. Mesa Mishtalech, and also therefore if the Mishtalech dies, Yishavach Adam. So again, that is a proof that again they would hold according to Rabbi Yehuda that Bali Chaim is Nidchin. Now Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, I can understand according to Rabbi Yochanan, he says that Bali Chaim are Nidchin. And therefore that's the reason why he says better to use the second pair and not the first one. So Mishum Hachi Yomos HaMishtalech. And that's why he says that the first one just let it die. El Rab Yomer Bali Chaim Ena Nidchin Amai Yomos HaMishtalech. It's very hard to understand the shita of Rabbi Yehuda if you want to say it's like Rav. It sounds very clear, not like Rav, it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan. But according to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, according to the sheet of Rav, he should not require this animal should die. In fact, the opposite. He should say it should be allowed to be used. So why would he say Yomos HaMishtalech? So Amar Lach Rav, Aliv Rabbi Yehuda lo kamina. There is no question. I'm not speaking according to Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're right. He must hold not like me. Ki amin aliv the Rabbanan. I'm saying according to the sheet of the Rabbanan that that's not necessary. Then according to them, then the din is that you allow the first one to be used and doesn't have to be killed. Now so we can now understand according to the sheet of Rab that is goof of the machlokus between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan whether you hold Bali Chaim Nidchin or Rabbi Yochanan b'may pligi. What exactly is this machlokus Rabbanan Rabbi Yehuda? According to Rabbi Yochanan, he holds Bali Chaim ein Nidchin, which is how Bali Chaim Nidchin, they cannot, it gets pushed off. So I can understand why Rabbi Yehuda therefore says Yomos HaMishtalech. But according to the Rabbanan, he would also say the same din. So why are they arguing? So Amar Rava Ha'amrina Daika Masnisin Kos the Rab Didn't I tell you before that I agree that our Mishnah is really in support of Rav? So you're right. According to the Shita of Rabbanan, it does sound like the Shita of Rav. However, you're right. On this other circumstance, Rabbi Yehuda does sound a little bit like the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan. It's not. She'ein chatas sibur mesa. So it says that when it comes to an animal that's a karban chatas, and let's say the owner dies, or in this situation the karban dies, the din is, normally when it comes to karban yachid, it dies. However, when it comes to karban sibur, we don't say that. Had yachid ki agav the mesa. However, when it comes to a karban yachid, it does die. So Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, Kid Rabbi Abba, and Marab, the Rabbi Abba, and Marab is within Samach Haman Aleph, Hakol Moed, everyone agrees. Shim this chaper, b'she'enu avuda, if let's say, for example, that you did not achieve kapara, she'enu avuda wasn't lost, avuda mesa, that the one that's lost is killed. Now, when we replaced a lost chatas, the question is, what do we do with the second one? El Rav havele kemafresh te chatois lachrayas. Yom Rabbi Yoshia hamafresh te chatois lachrayas mischaper b'achas mehem ashniya tira. He doesn't hold it. He holds that the din is it grazes. It doesn't get killed. The kivan the Yom Rav several like Rabbi Yosi the Yom mitzvah rishon mikar kemafresh la'ovadami. He says that since he holds that the mitzvahs for the first one, it's considered like you're a mafresh it for that reason. That's the reason why he applies his din. Okay, let's look at a couple questions. I'm going to stop there. Question 14. Where do we see the dik of our Mishnah, Karav, the Malachim, Ein Nidchen? How do we find this? That in fact, he holds that Balachim are not Nidchen. So, the fact that it said, Im Shel Shem Mace, it said that if, let's say, the mace, the animal that died in the first pair was Lashem, Zesh Olav Hagaru Lashem Yiskaim Tachta. That second pair, that's Lashem, we make the condition, which is Mashma, that Dafka that one. However, when it comes to the first one, the din is you could still use it Lazazel, right? Abulachai inu naisin timurli pasal hu abazat tachta. The other one doesn't cause the first one to be problematic because Balachai me'en nidchen. Alternatively, Ditnan. The Oida Rabbi Yehuda said, this is the second answer to question 14. Nishbach Adam. If let's say the blood spilled, Yoma Samishtalech. So the din is that we have to allow that first one that didn't die, but you have to allow it to die, the Mishtalech. Now Bishlam Rav Hainu the Plug Rabbi Yehuda. That's we clearly see that's the machlokus, whether you hold Balichaim Nidchen or not. The Yosel Meimer the Ab Balichaim Nidchen. So he's coming to tell us that Rabbi Yehuda is coming to tell us the Chiddush that no, in this situation, Malacham are Nidchen, and that's the reason why the Sarah Mashtalech is killed. However, according to the other Shita, there's no Machlokas. Seemingly, they both hold, according to the other Shita, that Balichaim are always Nidchen. So therefore, because of that, not only Rabbi Yehuda holds that, the Rabban Lachar also hold like that. So what's the Machlokas? Okay, let's see a couple more questions. Question TA17. Is a dichui? What is the dichui? That everyone holds of. And the answer is a mum oiver. When it comes to a mum oiver, we said on Samach Daled Amud Aleph that the din is, this is TA17, that everyone holds that it can be reused. Let's see question 18. Seir shel Yom Kippur Mish'aba Behiper Shachar Tachtav Him Kosher Min HaTorah L'Shana Haba Umazet Taloi, that we did not do yet. Let's see TB20 Ki Moshchasu Mehem Mum Bum. So based on this, My Asekra Bahem L'Mayit Min Eksav Parsha. What is that coming to exclude? Question 20. So Bohem is Avar Mumam Yiratze, Abel Shein Dichuyin Im Nidchu Yidchu, that if, let's say, the blemish goes away, then it could be used. But perhaps when it comes to other Dichuyin, because there's a custom dafka by the Mumoiver, but other situations is pushed off. Or Bohem Bin Yanuhu, the Lo Yiratze, Holiday Taruva Yirtzu. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to first see question 20. We'll see what I wrote. Question 20. This is by a mum oiver And the Machlokas, we can learn from here that Bali Chaim Edo Nidchin, or not, since Nirav and Nidcha. Or by mixtures, Taruvos, if you brought one already, can you bring and be makrib the rest? Ad Kan.